We're going to finish, just make a note of this in basic passing, because we weren't able to discuss this on Sukkot when it was relevant. Here's how it goes. Do it very outside. I gave a little Devar Torah about the 3 names of Adam. It's a little bit tricky when we translate. Last week's parsha was Bereshis. There's a creature called Adam introduced. In the beginning, he's called Ha-Adam, though, I guess, for lack of better translation, the man or the human. And eventually it becomes a proper noun. Initially, at the very beginning, when it talks about Adam and created man and female, and he blessed them, he told them to multiply, it seems that humanity b'mashma, human beings. It doesn't say how many God created, at least 2, but it seems that it was talking about the whole species. So Adam at the beginning means the entire mankind. And then later in the story, get to the Garden of Eden, it's Adam, it means the man, the male, as opposed to the female, because there's a woman walking around. And at the end of the story, it's not just the male of the kind, it's one man specifically. That's his name. Fine. So Adam basically changes, goes from the most general to the most specific. Whereas this woman, her name keeps changing. Initially, she's just part of Adam. It says Adam was created, and she's just in the kiva thereof. In the second part of the story, she doesn't exist, and when she is created, she's not Adam, she's Isha, as opposed to Ish, or Adam. And at the end of the story, she gets a personal name. Seems that the first name that man gave her was a descriptive of her kind, female kind as opposed to male kind, or woe man as opposed to man. And eventually, she gets a proper name, Eve. Okay. The Rambam does that with the word mikdash. At the beginning of his halachas, mikdash is very general. Mikdash is very specific. It means, most basically, a structure surrounded by enclosures, as the Mishkan was. That's the minimal mikdash in order to perform the commandments. And that's what existed for hundreds of years. Structure with 2 rooms and a partition around it. The partition defines where the sacrificial service is conducted, and it also contains a kior and a mizbeach. That's it. Later mikdash includes courtyards that were added to the first mikdash. Still later, the mikdash refers to all of Har-Bayis, as we saw earlier in this document. And it's surprising that Rabbi Brand said, you can't argue against it. There are too many proofs in Shas, and the Rambam specifically, where he uses the word mikdash to refer to all of Har-Bayis. Next, the word mikdash, at least in the Rambam's Perush HaMishnayos, refers to the entire city of Jerusalem, at least sanctified Jerusalem. We brought examples over here each time where the Rambam says there's mikdash and there's Medina. And the Rambam in each case the Rambam tells you mikdash is the city of Jerusalem. Medina is all the other cities. That's as opposed to, let's say, Rashi and other Mefarshim, who say Medina means Jerusalem outside the mikdash, and Kal V'chomer, the Gvulin, everywhere else is also beyond mikdash, and is even less than Medina. So that's what the Rambam has in all these examples. In Shkalim, it's in Sukkah, it's in Rosh Hashanah, and other places. You can cross-reference them, or you can see these on your own time. So the Rambam says that the Lulav was to be taken in the mikdash all 7 days of the festival, and that's a biblical commandment. In the mikdash, it's 7 days. Elsewhere, it's just 1 day, the first day. Now, the Rambam here once again defines mikdash as what? All of Jerusalem. The implication is, as we saw, we even have a footnote about this in the Quran. I was happy to see this. I saw this after I had compiled this. The implication, like Rabbi Rabinovich writes over here, is that you're supposed to take the lulav every single day of the festival in Jerusalem. Okay? Shalaim kula nikrei mikdash. V'shabbat chol moed haya roi she'anshei Yerushalayim yilu kol echad lulav b'veito. Perhaps on Shabbos chol moed, not even the first day. Shabbos chol moed, everybody should be taking the lulav in his house because that's a rabbinic, biblical commandment. But there's a gzer against it. Okay? So that's, I put in blue, that's what Rabbi Rabinovich's assumption is. He's not alone in this assumption. And Rav Kapach addresses this assumption and mentions it, once again in blue. But he says that really uh, over here, just like you find in Meiser Sheni. That's one reference. And Meiser Sheni was the first one before all these references like Shkalim and Rosh Hashanah and in Sukkah. Those are all in where? Seder Zroyim. Meiser Sheni, Seder Moed. Zroyim is before that. That's where Meiser Sheni is first introduced. So there, the Rambam says basically that the din of Meiser Sheni has to be eaten in Jerusalem, as you know, only applies when the temple is standing. That's why even though today, when we, or in years past, this year now, it's once again a Meiser Sheni year, when one tithes his produce, he has to take out some Meiser Sheni. What does he do with it? Well, he redeems it. He transfers its sanctity to some coins. That's also something he could have done when the temple's standing. But what he's supposed to really do is then take that money and use it to purchase food to eat within Jerusalem. And we don't do that nowadays. No one's done that. Why? You're not supposed to. Instead, we basically let that sanctity from the coins, we transfer it to something that is destroyed, and then we destroy that. That's part of our biur that we do every few years. We'll talk about that when the time comes. So you see over here, the Rav Kapach says so too, when we are talking about mikdash with regarding Lulav, he says, Avacha, ein shem mikdash chal, kol Yerushalayim el bizman she'abayith omed al til lo. We only call the entire city of Jerusalem mikdash when the temple is standing. Til lo is its tail, its mound. It's an expression from the prophets. It used to be when the cities were destroyed. That's what conquerors did. And the destruction of the city left a mound. So they just build on top of that. They didn't have bulldozers. Most of the time it wasn't worth clearing the rubble. So you just build on top of the mound. And if you had a city that was destroyed many times, you get a tale with different historical layers, which really excites the archaeologists. He says over here, you can see in red, Shema mina shekein beit mikdash kayam ein shem makom ba'olam, or there's no place in the world shechovan nitil lulav bo shiva af b'har habayit atzmo. This is a little bit of a chiddush. He basically says that if the temple's not standing, even on the rest of Har Habayis, there is no biblical commandment to take the lulav all 7 days. That's not what we were trying to do. We took and many others tried to take the lulav and the arava on Har Habayis, pashtus, because that's mikdash. I think that this is a little bit of a disagreeable statement within the Rambam himself, because the Rambam seems to say that even b'churbano, we saw halachas about this, even b'churbano, the concept of mikdash, or the category of mikdash, extends to the rest of Har Habayis. And not to Jerusalem. Yes, you could say that. That is perhaps something that's correct. But this is saying it's a little bit hard to fit into the Rambam. So he says you could have a diuk from this in the Rambam, in the Mishnayos also. So he gives another example over here. Korban Pesach. In the mikdash, they would eat the Korban Pesach. We know that it wasn't actually eaten in Har Habayis at all. It was eaten throughout the city. So once again, the city's called mikdash, but that's when presumably everything's working. There's a temple, so there's a Korban Pesach happening. Over here, he addresses the mitzvah of arava. We assumed that there's still a mitzvah today, or there was a mitzvah, to at least handle the arava, aside from the lulav, all 7 days in the temple. 6 days if Hoshana Rabbah is not on Shabbos. Okay, the Shabbos day they don't do it. Fine. So what do we have here? Rav Kapach writes, the Kitzur, he wrote this almost in modern Hebrew, Yerushalayim mikdash, rak bizman shebeit mikdash kayam. Okay, Jerusalem's only considered mikdash when the temple's standing. We ota mikdash bishata, ein ze rak dat rabbeinu, ela gam masoret ha'gaonim. And by the way, this idea isn't something that's unique to the Rambam. It's also in the medieval authorities who precede him. Navgam Yerushalmi Vavli. Maybe you could find the Yerushalmi and the Bavli also. Gam diuk mishnatma ve'en kayom shu makom shenad lulav bo min haTorah kol shiva kla. So there is no place where you should be taking the lulav all 7 days. Kal v'chomer, maybe you shouldn't be taking that rava either. The rava, we only know it's similar to the lulav. It's not even explicit in the Torah. Minog Nevi'im. So why would it be any different? There's no mitzvah to take the lulav all 7 days. Then there's no mitzvah to take the arava all 7 days. And there never was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai who made this decree, take the arava additional days, zecher to what was done in the temple. There's no zecher regarding the arava. We only have what? Yom arava, taking the arava on Hoshana Rabbah everywhere, but not the rest of the days. So this would be kind of a real downer for those who try to bring aravos every single day, like yours truly. Baruch Hashem, a few years ago was really difficult, so I got a prize actually for being the first one to bring aravos and documenting it as such on the holiday of Sukkot. We did it on, if I'm not mistaken, the second or third day of Sukkot a few years ago. Now it's becoming more widespread. We're getting away with it some more. But Rav Kapach, I guess, didn't feel such a mitzvah. Okay? Yeah, so you have another, over here, another point where he said, it's very clear. So it's a little bit difficult. Okay, what are you going to do? That's why you need a Sanhedrin, by the way. In a machlokas now, how to understand what the halacha is from the Rambam. You can't just ask, Rabbi Rabinovich and Rav Kapach have left. I don't think Rabbi Rabinovich felt that. Yes, take my word or whatever I believe over Rav Kapach. I don't think Rav Kapach would say that. So that's why you need a Sanhedrin to resolve these types of things.